Hello, my name is Kirioth, and today we're going to talk about a very uncomfortable subject, one that I know a lot of people are very self-conscious about, and what I wanted to do was to let you know that it's okay, and it does get better, and even if you never quite end up where you want to be, it's still going to be, well, it's still going to work out better in the end. We're going to talk about the fact that for most people, when you start this hobby, or any hobby that involves painting miniatures, you are invariably, unless you have some prior experience, going to be absolutely shit at it. Like, you're going to be terrible. This is the thing that I think a lot of people don't realise when they pick up something like Warhammer 40,000. They buy their first box. They buy the glue, they buy those little packs of paint that Games Workshop do, those little things which got, you want to paint ultramarines, here's a blue, a yellow, and that's all you get. It's not that bad, it's got way better. But you buy all this stuff, you look at the box and you're like, I want to achieve that paint job, and then you start painting it. You don't thin your paints because you don't know to thin your paints. You don't realise that you can in fact water them down. You can even mix a couple of shades if you wanted to create a different shade. Instead, you get your thick heavy brush, you slap the paint on until it's a good 2mm thick. You come away from painting your first ever model and you look at it, realise that you didn't prime it first as well, so you just paint it on grey plastic and go, oh, that looks shit. Oh, that looks really bad. I hate that. I hate it. What do I do? Well, you're in luck because Games Workshop stuff actually is fairly hardy and it can survive a couple of strippings. There's a couple of different ways to strip paint. If you do a quick Google, you'll find some decent resources for ways to get that paint off. But something that doesn't always recover, the miniature might be fine, but something that doesn't always recover is your enthusiasm. It's that drive that you had to get started in the first place. Something that I think some people lack is that kind of that bounce back attitude where you look at it and you go, that is shit, that's garbage, I hate it. That's where they stop. But don't stop. Don't stop. If you stop, you never get anywhere, and you won't improve, and you won't get better. And the fact is that the more you practice and the more you paint, you will get better. And, I mean, I would consider myself to be able to paint to tabletop standard, pretty much. I'm not a good painter. I'm too lazy. I take shortcuts. I take shortcuts really badly. For instance, if you are going to paint something and you're serious about it, do not do what I do. Do not put a little bit of water on the end of your brush and then just take your brush and dip it into the top of the lid of the paint pot where some has accumulated once you've shook it. Don't do that. That's a terrible way to paint. That's the way I do it because I'm lazy as hell. But don't do that because there are far better methods. But even with me being lazy, even with me just not really trying anything new for quite some time, I've still managed to go from this, and I considered this way back when to be a finished paint job. This guy right here, oh my god, the camera's actually focusing on him, it's a miracle. That is an Iron Warriors Dreadnought. It's like the flames I did on the side. Oh yeah, that's a single layer of yellow. Thick yellow, and still not great. And a single layer of red. I don't know if I'd ever actually seen fire based on that. Nice and thick, doesn't actually fill the crevices at all. There's multiple areas where you can still see black. There's multiple areas on this model where I didn't even properly base coat it, like I've just noticed on the feet, for instance. There's areas that just did not get sprayed. If you look at the back of this, that I considered that finished. That was done. It was sprayed black. And that's it. that's the detail. I mean, that's a plasma cannon, but it's just black. I was proud of this. I put this down on the table having done it for the first game that I had after I painted it, and I was like, look at that. And because my friends are nice and didn't want to hurt my feelings, they're like, oh wow, that's really good. It's not. It's terrible. It's terrible. It's really bad. I know it's bad. But practice literally does make perfect. When I came back to this hobby, I decided that I was going to make a Terminator, like a Strike Force Ultra. Terrible idea, absolutely terrible. They don't perform on the tabletop at all, that formation, absolutely garbage. But I wanted that because I like Terminators. I like them a lot. I've got 21 of them over there. And this time round, despite the fact that I'm still not a great painter, I had a better idea of what I was doing. So I produced this guy, which, if it focuses, it'd be a miracle. It is sort of focusing, but not so much. But that is the Chapter Master for my Strike Force Ultra. And that doesn't look too bad, you know? It's not the best painted thing you'll ever see in your life, but it's not terrible. It's not awful. I used techniques that I didn't even really bother with way back when I was a kid doing this. Things like dry brushing, things like actually highlighting edges, things like using technical paints. People jokingly refer to like Nuln Oil as liquid talent. It's not a joke. It genuinely isn't a joke. If you paint something all silver and leave it with no washes, it'll look like you've just painted something all silver. If you paint something all silver and then give it a quick go over with some Nuln Oil, you get depth, you get shade, you actually make it look as though you've done something to this model, even though really you haven't. Having painted this guy, and an entire army of guys exactly like him, because hooray for Terminators, I moved on to painting a Dreadnought, because I've always been terrible at vehicles, absolutely just awful at painting vehicles, I get bored easily, and I quite enjoyed it. And so I set myself a challenge beyond that. I was like, well, actually I quite liked painting that Dreadnought, it looks okay, not the best, but I should try and take what I've learned from that and apply it to something else. And so my Imperial Knight was born. So I can't remember if I ever named this thing. I don't think I did. I was going to, and then I found that it was the name of someone else's Imperial Knight, so I stopped. So this is I think the largest thing to date that I've painted. And it's all basic tech, like it's all very basic. It's not complicated. It's not like I sat here and shaded for hours. I didn't blend for days. It's very basic techniques. It's washes, it's technical paints. It's a lot of washes actually. I mean the back. This was sprayed silver. And as you can see from the back, there's a lot of different kind of bronze and dark shading going on there. Still haven't finished these actually, that's quite bad, I should do that. But all of the kind of metal on the back started out silver, and now it's got a kind of nice bronzy, silvery, dark sheen to it. Again, it's not that complicated. I would say that this didn't take me comparatively all that long for the size of model that it is, and yet just a few basic techniques and just a little bit of practice and you can see the difference. I mean, there's that, compare it to that. Now that is not good. That is tabletop standard. It's tabletop quality. It has the base of 3 colours. It's got liberal use of technical paint, but that's basically down to its backstory. But that to that, that's not a bad progression. Once I'd painted this, I wanted to try and actually, get to grips with more interesting models, more technical models that had more in the way of things like shading. I mean, yeah, you could do it to that, but I liked the block, like the bold, blocky, kind of just solid chunks of colour on this. And around about that time, I think it was, I split the Age of Sigmar starter set with a friend, and I went from that, which again looks okay, to painting this guy, which is the Kargath, I believe it's called. I don't know. Now again, it's not exactly a display piece. It's still tabletop quality, but it is once again a step up from the previous tabletop quality thing that I'd painted. Like, that has got more in the way of detail, it's got better shading, it's got a better combination of colours, it's got a better kind of blending of colours in various places than that did. From that, I wanted to go on and I wanted to try and actually do something with skin, because I've always been awful with skin. And so I decided that I was going to have a backup character for my D&D campaign that was a barbarian, a Goliath barbarian. And of course, if you're going Goliath barbarian and you like Games Workshop miniatures, there's only one model you can really buy, and that is the Khorne Slaughter Priest here. Is it the best skin tone you've ever seen? No. Is it the best paint job you've ever seen? No. But, once again, compare that to that. This is, I think, something that people, especially people who've never painted before, who've never collected before, who've never had anything to do with Warhammer before, need to understand. The chances are you'll start out with that. The chances are you will pick up a paintbrush, you'll pick up your paints, and you will make that. And it won't look good. And you'll be disheartened. And you'll look at the thick layers of paint, you'll look at the fact that you've missed bits, you'll look at little details that you didn't even know were there and completely skipped over. You'll look at all of this stuff, and you'll think to yourself, I don't know if I'm good enough for this. I don't know if I can actually do this. I don't know if I can actually paint this stuff, because it's difficult. It's hard to paint things. That's the basic truth of it. It's something I'm not familiar with. Do I have the patience? Do I have the time to get better at this? Should I even try? And the answer is always yes. You should always try, because it doesn't take long. It really doesn't take long to go from painting like this to, from painting like this to painting like that. The difference is night and day. That is a objectively better paint job than that. There's not a huge amount of practice you need to do that, and once you've got to the stage where you can paint half decent, where everything you make is tabletop quality, where everything you do is consistently of a acceptable standard, it doesn't take long from there to making things that are, high tabletop quality, low display quality. And if you really keep pushing it, you end up being able to paint people like Electric Eve on Twitch, who I follow, who is a phenomenal painter. Absolutely, her blending especially is out of this world. It's incredible. I've said myself, I'm lazy. I'm a lazy painter. The big draw for me when it comes to 40k is, yes, having a painted army. I do like that. I much prefer that to having bits here and there that aren't painted. The big thing for me is the kit bashing. It's the building of the model. I far prefer that part of it to painting, which is why I kind of reached a level that I was happy with and then said, yeah, I'm going to stick with it. But the thing is, even if you're lazy like me, even if you haven't got that drive to be the best like I don't have, you're not going to stay there forever. You're just not going to. By the time the difference between your first model you've painted and your fifth model you've painted is night and day. The difference between the fifth model and the 15th model, not as big, but it is there. The difference between the 15th model and the 50th model, and you will wonder who painted the 15th model to begin with, because it can't have been you. You can't have been that crap. And even that looks alright. Don't get disheartened. Your first paint jobs, most likely, they're going to suck. They're going to be garbage. They're going to look dreadful. But it's only the first ones. You don't pick up a guitar and immediately be able to play Hendrix. You don't play Counter-Strike and end up ranked number 1 in the world. You don't load up Assassin's Creed and find yourself able to take on 50 million guards. Well, actually, no, that's a terrible example. That's exactly what you can do in Assassin's Creed. You get the idea. It ramps up, it builds, you do get better, you do improve. As long as you want to improve, you will. And that's the other thing as well. If you get to a point where you're happy, you're satisfied, you can paint to a decent standard, and you can make entire armies that look good on the tabletop, and that's where you want to stop, that's okay too. Not everyone needs to be able to pull off mind-blowing blends. Not everyone needs to be able to produce Golden Demon figures. Some of us are here to make bulk armies that look decent, and that's fine as well. And if you reach that point and you're happy with it, take that for what it is. A massive amount of progress from where you started off. This was basically just a message of encouragement, telling you that it'll all be okay. Thank you very much for watching. If you've got any tips, especially tips for new painters, I'd quite like to see those. Leave them in the comments. Stuff that might make things a little bit easier for people new to the hobby. Even maybe tutorials and stuff that you follow that you found particularly useful. Share them in the comments below. In the meantime, there's a couple of videos to click. There's a Patreon and subscribe, all of that shit. Click it if you like. Don't click it if you don't want to. And I will see you for the next one. Toodaloo.